Hi, my name is Eyal, and I have a few things to say. I've been thinking about making a video like this for a while now, and I figured might as well do it now. Don't have much of anything else to do, so here we go. Throughout this video, or recording with images, I will be citing some of the problems I have with flat Earth, and I think everyone else should have as well. If the model that I'm going to describe is not your version of flat Earth, don't take this as a straw man, because there are people that believe in the model that I will be debunking here. And if this model is something you do support and you think I have something wrong, feel free to let me know in the comments or send an email or I don't know, whatever. So let's get this started. First, the model of the flat Earth that I'm debunking. Um, Basically, the idea is that the Earth is flat, most likely a disk. The center of the map is the North Pole, and you have all the other continents, countries, everything around it, kind of like the icon of the UN. Um, and most of the people that support this model say there is an ice barrier, ice wall that is surrounding the outer edge of the map. Um, many of the flat earthers believe in a dome covering over this flat Earth. The sun and the moon circle in rings up above the Earth at a distance of, I believe it's 3,000 miles above the ground. And the path the sun and the moon take changes a little bit throughout the year. And the stars all rotate ab- above the Earth as well in a counterclockwise direction. So let's start with the problems that I have found in this model. First, as far as I know, there aren't any Australians that support this model, or Brazilians, or anyone that is south of the equator that is believing in this model. Um, as far as I know, most of the believers are Americans, um, some Canadians maybe, but almost no one that I know of that is south of the equator. And the reason for that I'll get to in a second. But again, if you have a model that is supposed to be explanatory, supposed to be good, correct, and accurate, then you should be able to find supporters of it throughout the world. And when you don't find any in certain parts, it begs the question of why is that? Um, okay, next point, the path of the stars. According to this model, if you lay on your back at night and look up at the stars, you will see them moving in arcs in a counterclockwise path throughout the sky. If you take pictures every, I don't know, 10 minutes and then lay them out, you'll see that the stars are moving in a counterclockwise direction and the path they make is an arc. However, the facts are that if you do this thing in Australia or other uh, places that are south of the equator, the path the stars make is clockwise direction, not counterclockwise. Moreover, if you do this experiment someplace that is on the equator, like Singapore or I don't know, wherever, the path will be almost straight. Now, according to this model, the further you go away from the North Pole, the flatter the arcs will be, but there will always be arcs. And the arcs will always be in a counterclockwise direction. They should never be in clockwise and they should never be flat. The fact is, they are flat if you are on the equator, and if you are even south of the equator, the arcs are clockwise. So obviously this goes against this model. Um, Another very strong point against this model, something that is very easy to observe. If we take the date of January 1st, for example, um, we know from observation that on that day there is over 12 hours of daylight in places like Australia or other places that are south of the equator. However, according to this model, I will probably put some pictures here now to explain this, but according to this model, on such a date like January 1st, the sun cannot cover a spot for more than 12 hours. I mean, that's it's obvious. I mean, it's if at some point sunrise over Australia, some city in Australia, doesn't matter, the sun will be in one place. After some time, the sun will move over that place and you'll have sunset. The distance the sun would cover is less than half a day. And that means there should be less than 12 hours between sunrise and sunset on that place. The fact is that we have longer days than 12 hours on January 1st in Australia. Therefore, this model is obviously wrong. It doesn't demonstrate reality. Reality proves it wrong. Other points of matter. We see that the stars, well, this is harder to see, but people have observed it with accurate enough equipment. But we can see that the stars are in different places in the sky throughout the year. If you look at a constellation of stars, mark their position very accurately, and look at that same constellation 6 months later, the stars will be in relative position a little bit different. Very little, but it is something that can be noted, can be seen. And the flat Earth model does not explain it. The only way you can explain it is, the stars in the dome move because they like to move. The problem is that if you make ad hoc explanations like, oh, the stars move because that's what they do, if you say, oh, that's a hologram, if you say, well, the ring goes round and up and stone, if you make ad hoc explanation for every problem your model has, then odds are your model is wrong. A model needs to be simple. It must follow as few rules as possible, and it must be as accurate in explaining and predicting reality. The heliocentric model does that. It has basically just one law, the law of gravity. Everything in the heliocentric model follows this, and using that law alone, you can predict the positions of the stars and the planets, and you can know when you'll have a lunar and solar eclipse, and it is accurate. You get that down to the hour or even minute with only one law, one rule, one equation, you can call it, although it's a little bit more than one equation, but basically just one law. And as I mentioned, lunar eclipse. I have not seen an explanation for a lunar eclipse in the flat Earth model. There's no way to explain it other than one person did try to explain it, and he said, yeah, it's a hologram. The lunar eclipse doesn't really happen. There is no shadow that is covering the moon. It's just a hologram projected onto the moon by whoever is in charge of the flat Earth construction. And then, again, any proof for that? Any explanation for that? Just a hologram? Maybe everything is a hologram. Maybe the stars are holograms as well. You don't need this hologram explanation if you're using the heliocentric. Another problem is the source for the numbers. How do you get that the sun is 3,000 miles above the Earth? I've seen one video trying to explain it, and it's explaining it pretty wrong. The explanation I've seen is, if you have one place where the sun is at 40 degrees above the horizon, and this place is above the equator, and another place on the same timeline, but below the equator, the sun over there will also be at 45 degrees above the horizon, and then you just do the math. You have a isosceles triangle, 45 degrees, you know the distance between the 2 points, and you can measure the height, and blah blah blah. You get that the height is 3,000 miles. The problem is that if you do the same calculations, but instead of 45 degrees above and below the equator, you use 60 degrees above and below the equator, you get a different result. And in that case, that means something is wrong. And the thing that is wrong is the model. Okay, let's move on to the next point, the size. I've seen several videos that are claiming that the sun is bigger during noon and smaller at night. I've not seen any videos that are saying the same thing about the moon, but the same thing that is true about the sun has to be true about the moon. Because closer objects are appearing larger, and that's the explanation for the sun, how come the moon doesn't get bigger and smaller throughout the night? There is a thing called a Foucault Pendulum. We'll try to write a correct, to give a link to the Wikipedia page for this. But basically, it's something that was used to, well, I had the word prove that the world is spinning, but it does follow the model of a spinning globe. I won't explain too much of it right now. I've shown this to a flat earther, and his explanation was the same forces that spin the dome above the globe are what making the pendulum rotate above the ground. And again, it's another ad hoc explanation. Oh, the same forces, the same magical things that control there are affecting here. But the thing is that the Foucault pendulum does not rotate in exact synchrony with the sky. It is when you are at the North Pole, but anywhere else, it doesn't make a complete rotation throughout a single day. So again, that explanation does not help. I mean, you have to explain how much and why and show the forces. A Foucault pendulum is perfectly explained in a heliocentric model. What I would like to see, and this is another way to explain everything, to prove, to show, is if we had a computer simulation, for example. A computer program where you could plot in the different values for the stars, the locations of the sun, the moon, Earth, and tell it, okay, show me how a picture of that would look like. And then put in the values if it was a heliocentric, and take another picture like that, and compare the two pictures with reality. And then see which model fits reality better. Now, such a program I was not able to find, although I didn't look too much. I do suppose I could write one. I am a computer programmer. If I had enough incentive, I would write such a program that would be given a set of coordinates and will show you how a picture of something like that would look. If you want, if you're feeling up to it, contact me later and I'll tell you what kind of incentive I would want for something like that. And yeah, would be a nice way to prove it one way or another. Plot in an idea, several planets, stars, and show how it would look like on a flat Earth, show how it would look like on a heliocentric Earth, and go out and compare it to reality, see which is real. I have two more points here with Mount Everest. That's according to the flat earthers, the sun does never sets below the horizon. It just moves so far away that little things around us, dust in the atmosphere, are blocking the sun, and that's why we don't see it throughout the day, because it's too far away. It's like the light bulb at your neighbor's house across the street doesn't light your room because it's too far away. But the Mount Everest is the highest point there is on Earth, and there's not much dust there, and still the sun sets. If you're sitting on Mount Everest, you'll have a night just like you have at the bottom of Mount Everest. Well, not exactly the same, but you'll have night nonetheless. So how come the sun sets over Everest? Moreover, a place that I have been is India, on the east coast of India. And if you go out to sea, for example, about, 6-8 kilometers out to sea from the east coast of India, and you look north, you see nothing but water all the way across. I'm talking about if you're on a boat about a meter above sea level. All you see around you is water in each direction. However, I've calculated it, and if the flat Earth model is correct, when I was in India on the ocean, a few kilometers off coast, if I would look to the north, I should have seen Mount Everest about thumbnail height at arm length, peeking above the horizon. But there was no mountains anywhere to be seen. Flat water everywhere. And now, okay, yeah, you're not gonna catch me. Oh, you said flat. I meant the ocean was flat. There were no waves, and there was water whichever direction I would look. If the Earth was flat, I should have been able to see Mount Everest, but I didn't. That proves the world is not flat, or at least not in the way you guys are asking us to believe it. So, if I've made a mistake in any of these points, please let me know. If you agree with me, like this video, feel free to share it and tell me what you think about it. Thank you very much, and good night.